Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to answer the question, is AMD stock a buy? I'm going to use my simplified 6-step framework for analysis, so let's get right into it. The first step in my framework looks at customer value, and for AMD, revenue has grown from 5.4 billion in 2012 to 16.4 billion in 2021. That's evidence that customers are liking what AMD is selling. Graphic processing units and computer processing units is what it is in the industry for. It's what it does. A net promoter score of 72 ranks it as excellent, and in fact it's the highest of all of the companies that I follow. The only one that's even close is Snowflake at a net promoter score of 71. So that means net promoter score measures consumer loyalty, and a net promoter score of 72 means AMD has excellent consumer loyalty. The next step in my framework looks at unit economics, and its gross profit margin has soared from 22.8% in 2012 to 48.2% in 2021, meaning how much profit does it make from each thing that it sells. Operating profit margin is a more expansive figure that includes sales and marketing, research and development, and overhead costs, and it earned a 22% operating profit margin in 2021. The next step looks at total addressable market, and the global semiconductor market size was 528 billion in 2021. That's estimated to grow to 1.4 trillion by 29. So excellent, massive market opportunity for AMD. The next step in my framework looks at competition, and its direct competitor is Nvidia, which offers similar products and capabilities as AMD, though not so much on the CPU side, more so on the GPU side, and they're competing with similar customers. Unfortunately for investors, there's significant price cutting right now in the marketplace. There's too much inventory compared to customer demand, and so industry participants are taking pricing action, lowering prices. This is decreasing gross margins and profitability across the board. This is not good news for investors. The next step in my framework looks at valuation, and I use the price to earnings and price to free cash flow to measure AMD. It's trading at a price to earnings of 44 and a price to free cash flow of 31.9, which if we look back going to 2018, it's almost as cheap as it's ever been going back to those times. So the stock is relatively inexpensive right now. The final step in my framework looks at risks, and right now consumer spending on electronics is decreasing, and it's a cyclical industry, and it's partly due to the long-lasting nature of the products that it sells, right? When we buy a computer, we usually use it for a couple of years or more, and during the pandemic computer sales were exploding, right? 2020, 2021, computer sales exploded and revenue for AMD soared. And so now what it's experiencing is the downside of that cyclicality. Now that so many people have those electronics, they're not buying those things right now. And revenue from that side of AMD's business is falling considerably. So that's a major risk right now in that segment for AMD. All right, now that I've looked over each step in my framework, let me give it a grade. For customer value, I gave AMD an A plus, highest customer loyalty score of all of the companies that I follow, and I follow a lot of companies. Unit economics, they get an A. They have a solid gross profit margin as well as a solid operating profit margin, even amid the industry headwinds that it's experiencing here in 2022. Total addressable market, A plus here. It's a massive market that's growing and is only expected to grow even more over the next decade or two or even more. So excellent total addressable market. Competition, I gave them a B minus here. Competition is not good news for investors right now. Heavy price cutting, um, uh, bleeding into margins, and that's not good news for stock market investors for AMD stock. Risks, I give it a C. The near-term headwinds from changing consumer behavior is going to hit AMD's gaming segment, computer segment, consumer segment, and this is going to reduce profit margins, and this is not going to be ending anytime in the next few months. Most participants expect 2023 to also be a challenging year. Finally, valuation, I gave them a B plus because it's relatively inexpensive. Looking back all the way to 2018, investors haven't been able to buy AMD stock at this price going back 4 or 5 years from now. All right, so now that I've given it a grade in each step in my framework, on the next slide, I'm going to answer if the stock is a buy. Before I do that, here's where I'd recommend you subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be updating this recommendation. You're not going to want to miss out on that. So when this recommendation changes, you're going to want to stay tuned to those updates. So go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to flip over and answer the question if AMD stock is a buy right now. And I'm going to say AMD stock is right on the borderline. I'm almost there to recommending the stock as a buy. However, the slowdown from the consumer side of its business is strong and persistent. I want to wait to see one more quarter of results. I want to see one more quarter of industry trends via competitors, how much more discounting is going to be needed to get the inventory back in more healthy levels. And so before that happens, I don't want to jump in here because earnings could come down considerably. And while the stock looks cheap on a price to earnings historical, if earnings are going to drop considerably, then we're not really getting much bang for our buck there. So I'm almost there. I'm going to wait a little bit more, a few more updates, a few more earnings updates, inventory updates before I can recommend AMD stock as a buy. All right, so that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill set and risk levels. So I'm proud to partner with the Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by more than 3 times. Go to fool.com/Parkev to get your 10 stock picks now.